This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Brian Peña. I always join the Vito podcast, the best podcast in the United States.
And welcome to the latest and freshest edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. I am your host, Vito Geronimo Chirco, along to my usual sidekick and broadcast partner in fun. That is Doc from Doc and Jack, John Charles McElroon. John, how are you doing?
Vito, lots of news and notes this week in the world of baseball. I want to thank our great sponsors, the Detroit Sports Commission and DC Sports, for allowing us to put on this fine presentation, this fine baseball podcast. Vito, what's happening? What's going on with you?
Doing well. Just celebrated my birthday, and the Tigers are 24-38. Fourth in the American League Central Division, so not in dead last because of the Kansas City Royals, who they are playing for 3 games at Kauffman Stadium. That is in Kansas City this week, Doc. So, hey, maybe they get a couple of games there.
All I can say is, once we put out the Dingers forecast, oh my God, Jacoby Jones is hitting. There's a little bit more excitement in terms of the offense, at least a couple more games where the offense lit it up. I mean, that second game versus the Twins, the Detroit Tigers, they exploded offensively, and it was nice to see. But overall, last week, 2 losses to Tampa Bay, lost that series, 2 losses to the Twins, and we got a chance and we got a glimpse of what it's going to take for the Detroit Tigers to compete. And based on what I saw in my coverage and observing and going to Comerica Park, the Detroit Tigers are far, far away from the Minnesota Twins. But we do got to give the Tigers credit. They are competing. They are playing a brand of baseball that Ron Gardenhire can at least look and say, okay, we have the makings of a squad, but by and large, the talent isn't there, okay? Everyone knows it. The starting pitchers are obviously they're struggling, and the rotation is decimated with a bunch of injuries. You look at it, and the infield is a makeshift because the 2 guys that you brought in free agency, Harrison and Mercer,
Are long gone. Where are they at? They're long gone right now. With injury.
Yep. Yeah, and you look at it and you say, this is not the Tigers team that they wanted to put out there. I mean, you had 2 pitchers that in spring training were doing well, and they're not in the starting rotation. Michael Fulmer's gone for the year, so yes, the talent is by and large not there, but you also have to, and it's not an excuse, it's just the guys that they're putting out there just aren't good enough, and they're trying their absolute best. But when you match up against the Twins, Vito, if you make a mistake, if your intended target is outside and you miss in, oh my gosh. But I want to start with this, okay? Because it was the talk of the press box, it was the talk of the fans. Why the hell are the Tigers pitching to Nelson Cruz? He single-handedly has made a reputation of being a Tiger killer. He destroyed Tigers pitching during that series.
Well, yeah. 4 straight games with a home run. So all 3 games against the Tigers at Comerica this past weekend hit a home run. And he made Ryan Carpenter his BITCH on Sunday, didn't he? I mean, he played him for a fool, worked the count, and made him throw a pitch right where Nelson Cruz wanted it before he launched it for a home run on my birthday. Thanks, Ryan Carpenter. Ryan Carpenter was not delivering a birthday gift, to say the least, this past Sunday against the Twinkies, who arguably right now, based on stats and just around the bases, you could say, no pun intended, are the best offensive team in the American League and truly in all of baseball right now. And Nelson Cruz, once again, man, he lifted the ball out of the ballpark, made the Tigers his BITCH all weekend long, and he's been a Tiger killer, Doc, for a long, long time now, back to his days in Texas, and he showcased that once again over the weekend. I had to witness it on Friday night. I was there at the ballpark, was there to see Riley Greene be introduced, hit some BP, saw all of that, took that in, got a photo with him and Miguel Cabrera. He had wanted to meet Miguel and then did, and Jeff Rieger got a video of that. I got a photo. I think it was pretty good, and did pretty well on Twitter for us, Doc. And anyways, that game Friday night, Tigers were looking all right. Matthew Boyd had pitched well. Joe Jimenez comes in and a 3-3 tie, and guess what? Gives up the long ball to Nelson Cruz, and that was it, and that was a Tigers loss subsequently. So they at least won 1, but lost 2 out of 3 over the weekend against the Twinkies, and Nelson Cruz mashed the baseball against the Tigers yet again.
Yeah, it was fascinating. So do you think we can say that maybe Ron Gardenhire and that staff made a mistake. I mean, it's not that hard to just put four fingers in the air and say, okay, every time Cruz comes up, walk him. I mean, I don't understand why they didn't do that. Why did they just allow him to single-handedly destroy the pitching staff? I mean, he's just a single batter. All you can do is make other guys. I think the strategy would have been quite simple. I mean, you recognize that Nelson Cruz is a prolific hitter against you. He's, obviously on a hot streak. Just put him on base and make the other guys beat you. I just felt like that strategy, at least in the third game, wasn't the right one. You should just put Nelson Cruz on and or pitch around him in a way where, okay, if you're not going to intentionally walk him and just let him go from home plate to first, you just throw every single pitch outside, high and tight, and or after the fourth home run, dude, ding him, hit him, not in the head, but send a message, back him off a little bit. I just felt like Nelson Cruz was way too comfortable in that batter's box, and he was free swinging and hitting home runs.
Well, the thing is, the Tigers have really paid dividends for a lot of ball clubs when these other teams have played the Tigers this year, because the teams have gotten hot or individual players have gotten hot. Once again, 4 straight games. So in all of the games this past weekend against the Tigers, Nelson Cruz went in deep. The oldest player to hit a home run in 4 straight games since Jim Thome did it in 2010. Nelson Cruz has 11 home runs now in the season, has a .924 OPS, and to get to that OPS, .359 on base percentage, .565 slugging. He is killing the baseball, and that would be for extra base power specifically. And once again, he killed the Tigers all weekend long, and the Twins mashed the baseball all weekend long, and that's why they're atop the American League Central Division as we speak.
The other major news of the week was Al Avila, after the draft, did come out and talk a little bit, and it was kind of revealed that Miguel Cabrera, his knee situation, is going to get worse eventually. And Al Avila said, look, we probably can keep him on the field. We probably, if he works through, a health recuperation program, probably can be the long-term DH. But he's going to have to deal with this knee injury, and it likely is going to get progressively worse. But they do believe that he's going to honor the contract and should be able to at least hit. But the news of the week is that Miguel Cabrera and his health situation, that knee, he was diagnosed with a changed knee, quote unquote. That his knee, obviously based on years and years of playing Major League Baseball, has resulted in a change in his knee and not for the best. So obviously his tenure playing first base has subsided, and he likely for the foreseeable future, at least for the remainder of 2019, is your designated hitter. And it does call into question that at any time that knee could lock up. It could obviously cause problems. He might miss some time. And there's going to be a lot of scenarios where day games after night games, you just won't see Miguel Cabrera at all. What do you make of that? And does it, instill in you the notion that, because obviously we debated it, we said that contract probably was going to be bad. You wrote a piece for the Detroit Athletic Company kind of breaking it down that, yeah, there's going to be some short-term gain potentially by signing it, but we debated it, and we noted that as a result of signing that deal, as a result of keeping Cabrera, you were forced to let go of Scherzer. You were forced to let go of Fister. You were forced to make trades to lessen the quality of the team. And the question we asked was, are you willing to let go of these 4 or 5 players to keep Cabrera? We asked that question, and I most notably debated Matt Aubrey, fine sponsor of the network Tap and Barrel Grill. He was super excited, like, Miguel Cabrera, I'm so happy he's going to go into the Hall of Fame as a Tiger. I said, Matt, relax a little bit. And you can see on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, our dialogue. I said, Matt, and this was 3 years ago when the contract was signed. I said, Matt, calm down a little bit. This contract is going to be tough, 3 or 4 years down the road when Miguel Cabrera is older. There's going to be some bad money. And Vito, do you know he's still owed well over $120 million left on the deal? So what do you make of it, Miguel Cabrera now and the remaining years on his contract and his tenure with the Detroit Tigers?
It was a legacy deal from the start. He was never going to be worth that money, $30 million annually. Now he has that he will be making until 2023. So it was about what he had done before in a Tigers uniform, before inking that contract, winning the 2 most valuable player of the year awards, winning the Triple Crown. All of that amounted to him getting what I term once again as a legacy deal from the Detroit Tigers organization. Thus, it was never going to be a deal that he was worth long term. And subsequently, with that right knee issue now that will be prolonged and makes him a 50-year-old guy or older with that knee issue, guess what? He's never going to be close to worth that because he can't play first base, it looks like, at all moving forward. He's a permanent DH already. It's not a good thing because they're on the books with Miguel's contract until 2023 once again, guys. So it's not a pretty look for the Tigers organization having a deal with a permanent DH until then who is making all of that money, Doc.
So it lends to a conversation because Ron Gardenhire, when he addresses the media and goes on local radio, he says, yeah, we've talked to Nick Castellanos, and we say, look, we want to keep him in right field. We are happy with his progression. He's obviously worked himself into, let's just say, a serviceable outfielder. Is he great? No. Is he awful? Is he as bad as he was in previous seasons? No. Is he somebody that you should keep in right field? No. You can upgrade. Obviously, when the time comes and you want to be competitive, you're going to need a better right fielder. And they've told Nick Castellanos in the future there's going to be a strong chance that he's going to play first base. But the reason why that they haven't is it's really tough to go from third base and then learn a new position. And then, obviously, he's going to have to learn the first base position because he just hasn't played it that much. So there's obviously going to be learning pains, and you just don't want to do that. And the likelihood is, potentially, by the trade deadline, if there's a suitor that will make a reasonable offer, if Nick C can at least hit a little bit more, raise that batting average, the likely scenario is Nick C's gone. So do you see Nick C playing first base in the foreseeable future? Do you think that decision should have been made already?
Well, it wasn't going to be made in the past because of Miguel Cabrera being there. Now that he's going to be a DH, why not put him at first base permanently? What do you have to lose? This season is a lost season, and you don't have a true first baseman now playing every single day. You have guys like Nico Goodrum playing there, Gordon Beckham, Brandon Dixon, and that trio isn't going to win you many ball games. So why not put Nick C there, who isn't a very capable right fielder with the glove, hasn't been a good fielder anywhere previously in his career, so put him at first base, arguably the easiest position to play, right, for a guy that really can't move laterally or vertically very well. So put him at first, and I say start it today.
Start it right away, huh?
Why not?
Well,
he's going to be a first baseman coming up sooner than later anyways because he can't truly play anywhere else in the field, so make him a first baseman is what I say right now.
Well, here's the problem, Vito. You got to make some catches. You got to be able to play the position. And if he looks a little bit out of sorts and things like that, that's just going to further hurt his trade value because obviously these general managers, they're looking to kind of pinch Al Avila and not give up a whole heck of a lot. And the Tigers are in the unenviable position of trying to unload guys. And in terms of their value, many of the other general managers in the league are just trying to, pull a fast one on Al Avila, and he knows it. Obviously, you look at it, and one of the critiques can be some of the guys that they got back for J.D. Martinez, Justin Verlander, Justin Upton. You look at it and you go, well, some of those guys that, are no longer part of the team, you could have got maybe a little bit more for. But that's here nor there. You look at it and you say, there is a possibility. I do think we're going to see Nick Castellanos. We're going to see him playing a little bit of first base. I just hope he can be a quick study and not, make some really bad plays because the defense, Vito, again, the theme that we continue to see is that pitchers will turn around. There's nobody at second base. There's running mistakes. Dave Clark, single-handedly, I've seen now 4 times this year, has waved a runner home, and he's been out by at least 10 yards. At least. I'm like, come on. I understand that runs are at a premium at times, but if you don't think the guy's going to at least have a chance, Vito, I'm talking about by the time the catcher's there, he's just standing there waiting, and the runner's still there, like 4 or 5 strides to come to the catcher. It's really bad in terms of some of the decisions that are made by the third base coach there, Clark, but what are you going to do?
I don't envy him at all, and the base running miscues have added up all season long from the Tigers. The thing about Nick C and why the Tigers might not want to put him at first base is it truly limits his trade value then. They want to pretend that he can field right field and field it adequately because he has an increased amount of trade value when he can play a position other than first base and not be a permanent first baseman or permanent DH. Because really, he's a guy that is trending in that direction of becoming a DH as well one day. He can't at this stage in his career when he's still on the right side of 30. So they want to make sure he plays somewhere else, showcases to the masses that he can play somewhere other than first base and do it full time, such as in right field. Because once again, if you move him to first base permanently right now, Doc, it limits his trade value even more. And I say even more because he's already not hitting consistently enough to really warrant a lot in return for his services.
In the second half of the podcast, we got a lot of strong things to talk about, some news and notes in the world of baseball. Madison Bumgarner made some news in terms of the fact that he gave up a monster home run and then started chirping. We're going to talk about the league-wide reaction in terms of, hey, he didn't like to get shown up a little bit. Muncy, when he crushed the home run, hit it into the bay there, he did a little staring at Bumgarner, staring at his fine work, and Bumgarner was not happy. We'll talk about that. And then, obviously, the sad news of the week was the shooting of David Ortiz. But before we get there, before we take our first time out, what was it like to go to batting practice? What was it like seeing, obviously, a first-round pick? Obviously, too, the fascinating part was you saw a little glimpse of a guy going to his first day of work, the first day where you actually are going to meet one of the CEOs, technically. Riley Greene meets Miguel Cabrera, and you could just tell the grizzled vet, Miguel Cabrera wants to show the young kid around, and there was a little bit of that. You could tell from the videos and the photos, too. There was kind of that awestruck moment. You're right there. You see the meeting. You're right there. You're on the scene. One of the few reporters that were there. You took a photo. You got a sense of what was going on, and then you saw some of the impressive batting practice that he took. And it was similar to the one I took, too, in that I always thought that they would take batting practice where the pitcher would stand back. No, dude, the guy's like right up on you, and you got to even react quicker than even in baseball. But from everybody that was there, the crack of the bat, seeing Al Kaline, seeing some former first-rounders that are on the Tigers taking it all in. So, yeah, Riley Greene makes his debut at Comerica Park, and it seemed festive, it seemed nice, and it was kind of like a welcoming moment to an 18-year-old kid, especially with his mom there, all the Tiger dignitaries there, and you.
Now, did you compare your BP session at Jimmy John's Field for the United Shore Professional Baseball League to Riley Greene taking his first ever BP session?
The crack of the bat sounded the same to me.
As you. In your BP session.
No doubt.
Please, ludicrous, asinine, blasphemy, as Stephen A. Smith would say. Come on, man.
My exit velocity, my swing was impeccable, and it had good launch angle, good velocity, and I seem to recall a certain head coach of a championship team going, quality. Best in the media.
Who said it to butter you up and to get back on these airways, maybe? Okay,
not
going to name his name, but I think he knows who he is if he's listening to this week's edition of Tiger Stock, too. Anyways, Riley Greene looked good, pure baseball swing. Now, when is he going to hit BP again at Comerica Park, though? How many years from now? 4 or 5 years? He's only 18.
By
He's
your
a young
30th
lad.
birthday.
By my 30th birthday, he might be hitting BP again at Comerica Park as a big leaguer with the Tigers. Would love to see him up sooner than that. But the thing is, as a high schooler right now, he's only 18, Doc. I mean, he's barely an adult, technically, right? He's got a lot of time probably to spend in the minors before he spends big league action with the Tigers. So we got to wait it out. It's going to be a long process. And with a lot of these guys, it's elongated. But especially when you spend no time in college prior to being drafted. So Riley Greene, his estimated time of arrival in the big leagues with the Tigers is probably 2022, 2023, Doc. So be patient out there, guys. Be very patient.
Well, I'll say this. There was a chance when he left the dugout, he turns and sees you. Do you say hi? Do you acknowledge him? Or does he then go right to batting practice? How did that go down after he meets Miggy?
I said I'm Vito Chirco and don't know John Charles Macaroon from the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Made sure he knew that right away. But realistically, he talked to Miggy, and I think he was awestruck. He had wanted to meet Miguel, and Miguel, by the way, was chirping while Riley Greene was hitting BP. So that was funny. But his mom and another woman they were taking in the BP session as well, watching it from around the area in front of the Tigers dugout. So they were watching it. So he had family there as well for his introductory press conference. The media was there, and he garnered all this attention. And I asked former White Sox first-rounder and a current Tiger in Gordon Beckham about how to deal with all the expectations. And he said if he's not already, that Riley Greene has to become strong-willed. You have to have the mental aptitude to be able to endure through all the expectations and pressure as a first-rounder, as Gordon Beckham was back in 2008 when he was selected, I believe, number 8 overall in that draft by the rival and my brother's favorite team, the Chicago White Sox. So you have to be mentally strong, be strong-willed. And Gordon Beckham said that much when I asked him about what Riley Greene will have to endure through and how to deal with, how to try to deal with all of the expectations laid upon his shoulders as a first-round draft pick.
All right, great stuff. I'm glad that we have access to the Detroit Tigers. It really is quite the thing to learn the game of baseball when you do cover a team. And some people will say, well, why are you watching game in, game out? Look, I'm a fan. I want them to win. I want to see the intricacies of the game. I want to learn the game, and that's why I go out there as many times as humanly possible. And it's a good experience. I mean, I like going down to the diamond. I like, hearing some quotes. I like talking to the media, and I thoroughly enjoy it. That's why we do it, and that's why we have a plethora of followers who do enjoy our content, and we have sponsors that sponsor the Tigers Talk podcast. So good work there, and I look forward to future pieces where you do actually, Vito, step up and actually now ask for some things.
Step up to the plate. Okay.
It's time. It's time.
You and I both. It's about time for us to get our due recognition and, step up to the plate and get some more quotes out of these guys, right? And
exactly.
more sound bites, interesting sound bites from all these Tigers players.
You did great. That's why I said you reminded me that Gordon Beckham was a first-round pick.
You didn't even know that. I taught you something new over this past weekend.
No, I
Thank
knew
you
it.
very much.
No, I knew it. I just wasn't reminded of it because, he plays for the Tigers now. So
it's been a while since he was drafted in the first round by the White Sox back in 2008 once again. Over a decade now since he was a first-round selection.
Now he plays that quadruple A Comerica.
Yeah, pretty much as a 4A player. But anyways, no offense to Gordon Beckham. Really nice guy to talk to, by the way, too.
Exactly. All right, time for our first time out. Let's give love to the great sponsors of the network, and we'll come back and finish out this week's podcast with the news of the week.
And those sponsors, Doc, by the way, are Detroit City Sports and DC Sports, located at Lakeside Mall in Sterling Heights, and also the Detroit Sports Commission. You can follow DC Sports on Twitter at DC Sports Detroit. You can also check out their terrific website at DetroitCitySports.com. And as a reminder to all of you, June 30th, Sweet Lou Whitaker, is coming to DC Sports at Lakeside Mall to sign autographs. For more info on that and all of the upcoming autograph signings being held at DC Sports coming up soon and in the long term, please check out DC Sports' terrific website at DetroitCitySports.com. And once again, the Detroit Sports Commission has been bringing marquee national, international sporting events to the Metro Detroit area since 2001. To find out about the latest events coming to the Metro Detroit area, please follow the Detroit Sports Commission on Twitter and on Instagram at DET Sports. And make sure to check out the Detroit Sports Commission's terrific and updated website at DetroitSports.org.
I'm telling you, Vito, if you could, if we did a video just showing all the botches that I do here, it's kind of funny.
God, I mean, you are off your game this week, Doc.
Not really. It's just there's a lot going on sometimes you recognize, how the hell do you guys put this podcast out there? Well, obviously, we do a lot of great post-production.
Yeah, thanks to my editing skills.
Exactly.
The podcast sounds terrific, Doc.
Exactly. And I say, man, you got to turn knobs up, down. You got to pod people up. Got to make sure that Vito's mic is turned on. There's a lot to it. And sometimes, when you got a lot going on and you got all these texts you're going through and you're like, okay, did I send Vito the right time to come? Is he assuming that we're going to start a half hour later, half hour earlier? Okay, we got a guess. He's, all these things you got going on. And then you got, your wife is like, I need this, I need that, and da-da-da-da. I got a lot on my brain. And sometimes I do expect one day where I'm just going to show up here and wait for you, and you're going to be like, dude, you told me 4 o'clock. I'm going to be here at 11. I'll be like, shit.
Because you're scatterbrained and you're distracted easily by text messages, by Twitter. Well, you're all over Twitter. I got to give you that much. Even when you're distracted, you're on Twitter, and you're distracted by Twitter. So that's why you're on Twitter. Anyways.
If you know now, the newest version, the newest update on the iPhone tells you how much time you spend. And,
how much do you, by the way, on your phone?
85% of my time that's on the phone is on social media.
Oh, yeah, on Twitter.
Yeah.
And on one app, really, on Twitter.
Exactly. Now we're trying to grow Instagram a little bit, too. We got I found a way to grow followers there, basically through you. You got
organically? Through Vito, Jerome, Chirco?
Yeah, all the people
really?
That, basically, my current formula is anybody that likes your photos, I follow.
I was about to say, really, the only people that like the photos for the Detroit Sports Podcast on Instagram
are your fans.
Are people that know me, my friends and family. So we got some supporters through that. So thank you to all of you that are liking the photos on there and making me look good subsequently.
You can follow Vito on Twitter at Vito Jerome. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Always enjoy the banter. I enjoy sharing factual information regarding the Tigers and things like that. But Vito, my goodness. Madison Bumgarner in the news. For those Tiger fans, he was the guy, back in 2012 that just, lit up the Tigers and he came in. I think was he the last guy that pitched? I think in the closing game versus the Giants, I think he had a role if he wasn't the Game 4 starter. He was a guy that just back in 2012, the Giants in the early 2000s in 2010, basically every other year were doing some
2010, 2012, 2014, 3 and 6 years. Tim Lincecum was used out of the pen. He was mightily effective. wasn't really even that good in the regular season. Pablo Sandoval killed JV in Game 1 in San Fran. Remember that, too? When the All-Star game, the winner of it still dictated who got home field in the World Series. So Giants got home field, had Game 1, Game 2 there. Pablo Sandoval took off, had a great series. Giants sweep the Tigers subsequently, and Sergio Romo recorded the final out against whom, Doc? Do you remember? You should, because he's still currently a Tiger, and that might give it away, by the way, too.
Miggy?
Yeah, against Miguel Cabrera. That gave it away, right? I mean, saying that probably.
Exactly.
But Miguel swung and missed, and that was it. That was it in 4 games against the Giants.
The Giants celebrated. I'll never forget them celebrating winning the trophy there at Comerica Park. A trophy was won at Comerica. It just wasn't the Detroit Tigers. Well, Madison Bumgarner's in the news because he gave up a dinger. And Muncy stares it down. And obviously, when batters succeed at the major league level, sometimes they do some things. I remember one of the all-time great ones was Barry Bonds. He would kind of do like a 360 twirl when he would hit a good one and things like that. And some people will always debate whether that's classy or not. Well, when he did it, Madison Bumgarner did not take too kindly to it, and he was chirping, and Muncy chirped right back. He said, hey, if you don't want me doing that or you have any complaints, go fish the ball out of the ocean there. And he did not hesitate to chirp back. So people have been weighing in back and forth, but one of the strongest reactions is from Steve Phillips, who went on the air and talked about it. So let's play this clip, and I want to get your sense of the whole Madison Bumgarner Muncy controversy. Here's the clip here.
Well, look, I looked at this and thought I didn't think that Max Muncy overplayed anything. I didn't think he stood at home plate and stared at it. He looked at it. He put his head toward first base. He looked up again. He didn't flip his bat. He didn't do anything to show up Madison Bumgarner. But here's the problem, and everybody's so protective of Madison Bumgarner. We all know he's a great competitor. We all know, what a great World Series run he had for the Giants over the 3 years. But this doesn't excuse this behavior. It's like it's an insult to him if you hit a home run against him. He's got to zip it and just go out there and pitch. This was the first inning of a game, and what people say, well, what's the difference between a bat flip or a pitcher celebrating from what Bumgarner does? To me, he's looking to pick a fight. He's looking to fight. He's looking when he gets insulted, he throws at people like he did with Yasiel Puig. It's completely inappropriate behavior. It's one thing to be competitive, and I'm all for that. Channel it, control it, keep your emotions under control. Max Muncy did nothing there, and Muncy's response I thought was great. If you don't want me to watch it, then go get it out of the ocean. And I thought it was a terrific response. Muncy's not looking for a problem. He's not a flamboyant player. He's not an over-emotional guy. He wasn't in any way showing up Madison Bumgarner, but Bumgarner feels insulted and victimized by every home run that's hit against him. Chill out, man. Go out there and pitch, zip it, and stop looking and provoking fights for everything out there. I think his behavior is inappropriate.
Yeah.
So Steve Phillips, De La Salle alum, by the way. You didn't know that, did you? He went to De La Salle like I did, and then he cheated on his wife. Anyways, I didn't do that. Did you see who he cheated on with, by the way? You probably didn't see. I'm not going to even talk about it.
Wait.
It's bad. It was an ESPN colleague, like behind-the-scenes person, and let's just say this woman wasn't as pretty as his wife was, okay? Look her up now, okay? It'll be interesting for you to find out, and you'll have a reaction to it, I bet you. I bet you that much. Anyways, you don't want to get back on topic? Okay. Well, look her up then. Look her up.
No,
tell me.
No, Vito. If he's a De La Salle alum,
Yeah.
and you are someone that walks the hallways of De La Salle, you do interviews now, you do a separate entity podcast for De La Salle.
Here we go.
I think it's time that you bust open the phone books, call up Steve Phillips, and ask him about it.
I don't know if they're in good graces. Okay, De La Salle and him. I don't know about that. Because you know what? I'll tell you the truth. He hasn't been brought up once when we've talked about, like, De La Salle alums of Spotlight as part of that De La Salle Spotlight podcast. So I don't know why. There is a reason there. I guess we can find out, though, at least.
Okay, fine.
I know you want to find out badly.
That behavior might be unbecoming for De La Salle,
Yeah.
but that's great for me.
Great for you, right?
So, Steve, everything's going great.
Psychoanalyze him, too, right, as you're talking to him.
Do you feel like you make good choices in your life?
Because we know you don't, Steve. Sorry, Steve, and that was like a decade old now. More than that, actually, when he was at ESPN.
Steve, about your core values that you learned from De La Salle. Did you apply them?
Yeah, what were those core values and principles you learned at De La Salle?
Do you feel you were unfairly treated by ESPN as a result of your behaviors?
Ooh, let him go right after that.
Of course.
By the way, he had risen to the Sunday Night Baseball booth.
Yeah.
He was a top ESPN Major League Baseball commentator. Anyways,
Reach out, Vito.
his commentating there, I think, was pretty much on point. I liked it because, you know what? chillax, Madison Bumgarner. I know you're mad bum. You get irritated and fire it up very easily, but you're not at the top of your profession anymore, okay? He's not nearly as sharp and as effective as he once was when he was striking out everybody and pitching out of the bullpen, such as in 2014 to end the Fall Classic against the Royals. And in 2012, by the way, Romo out of the bullpen, he struck out Miguel Cabrera looking. Miguel Cabrera was not swinging. Brandon Inge in 2006, remember, was swinging against a pitcher that's still on the Cardinals. Old dude now, 37 years old, Adam Wainwright. How about that? Way back in the day. Anyways, my reaction to all of this regarding Madison Bumgarner is almost what Max Muncy said. Go get the ball out of the water then, bro, and chillax, as Steve Phillips said himself. I truly believe that. Why get all worked up? He hit a home run into the water, and why are you getting irate? Don't let the guy hit the ball into the lake then, into the water out there. Okay? As simple as that. You let up the home run, so deal with it, bro, and chillax, as Steve Phillips said once again.
Yeah, I found the whole thing interesting. I'm a little bit more of an old school guy. I would not have chirped. Bumgarner did the wrong thing by chirping. The next time that Muncy's up, if you got a problem with it, clunk. I'm all in favor.
Clunk him. If you really have a problem with it, clunk him, or you pitch behind him. A lot of times now, that's the safest way of doing it.
Yeah.
So you don't hit somebody, in the head or something, or somewhere where you shouldn't be hitting the guy.
So, Vito, some sad news, some shocking news this week. David Ortiz was visiting the Dominican Republic, and did you by chance click on the video? I did. And it showed that he was sitting there in the chair, and some guy from behind shoots him, and you see him fall down. Luckily, I thought that in this day and age that maybe they would have used, security footage that was like in high def or something like that. I was like, oh, man, here we go. But it was security footage, which was in black and white. It was a little blurry and things like that. But you do see a quite large man in David Ortiz, and he does get shot. And thankfully, he wasn't killed in this incident. But when you read about it, you realize that maybe David Ortiz might have been associating with people that were not of the highest quality, or maybe got involved with some things that he shouldn't have. But the question I'll ask you is this. Everybody loves David Ortiz across Major League Baseball. The Red Sox even sent a plane to get him and get him treated in Boston. He's a legend. He's a hero. But I'll say this. I think it's time for these athletes from Venezuela, the Dominican Republic, maybe at times you kind of got to distance yourself a little bit and not go back there. Or if you do, knowing the volatile nature, knowing that, here in this country, there is a disparity between those that have and have not, but it's not to the point where there's this severe jealousy where, athletes can't walk the street. Dude, if Gordon Beckham walked here, I probably wouldn't know. I thought, the mailman's here.
People wouldn't even know him. That's
exactly.
The thing.
But David Ortiz goes back to the Dominican Republic. Why? Why don't you have a security detail? I would say that if you're going to go back there, you got to be like hanging out at the resort where there's security, where there's not going to be something that goes down. This was freaky, too, to know that he was shot in the back, and potentially speaking, someone may have set him up to take a hit.
Well, the thing is, it's sad to see this guy in his native Dominican Republic.
Sad, yeah.
Went back there to hang out with friends, presumably, and he has family and friends there, so you can't tell him not to go back to his native Dominican Republic. You're going to tell him not to go back there, or somebody that's from Venezuela not to go back there because it's dangerous there right now, and the violence is high, as David Ortiz admitted in his autobiography that he wrote in 2017 with the help of Michael Holley, who was formerly of ESPN. He wrote here, open quotes, "Once my mother sent me to the bodega to pick up some groceries. On my way there, I saw a guy murdered, right in front of my eyes, killed." So he spoke of this violence in his autobiography, and then he gets shot in the back, and the bullet, I guess, went through his abdomen. And he is in stable condition now, doing better. And the Red Sox, 2 surgeries through already, and the Red Sox, as you said, got him out of the Dominican Republic and flew him to Boston. And it sounds like he is getting back slowly but surely, and it will be a slow, long process more than likely, to full health. And that will be great to see from this legend, who will always be a legend in Boston specifically, and he was a leader of the Boston Strong movement, remember, after the Boston Marathon bombings, and the Red Sox won the Fall Classic then in 2013 when I thought the Tigers should have won, and maybe if it wasn't for that Boston Marathon bombing, they wouldn't have had the luck on their side and rode that to the Fall Classic, but the Boston Red Sox did, and David Ortiz will always be remembered as one of the greatest ever play for the Red Sox and one of the greatest Major League Baseball hitters of all time.
Yeah, it's a sad situation all the way around. Be careful if you're an influencer. Be careful if you have this high profile, if you're going back to your home country, because it's just a real sad situation to know that potentially there are people that have that evil eye on you and potentially want to do harm to you. It's just a tough thing all the way around. And look, in this day and age, when you got means, Vito, we're not talking about a guy that just got like $2-3 million. He's got a lot of money. You could fly the Dominican Republic to your house. You know what I mean?
And not be seen. Oh, yeah.
You could
but
fly.
I think he wanted to be seen. He didn't want to care about people surrounding him and them doing something to him.
You have to care.
But you don't want to be a worrywart all the time either and have to be looking over your back, looking over your shoulder for somebody and who that is and what he or she might try to do to you. And, I mean, obviously because he wasn't worried enough, this occurred. But there can be cases, too, where you're the most secure individual and it could happen. Remember that as well, guys, at the end of the day.
Great podcast recording, sir. Hate to end on a sour note, but this week for the Tigers, who they got, and what are we looking at?
Well, you've got the Royals on the road, okay, for 3, and you've got one of the games taking place at the site of the World Series in Omaha, Nebraska, Thursday night, and the game's actually on ESPN. Tigers, nationally televised on ESPN. Check it out Thursday night, 8:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then at home coming up against the Indians for 3. I'll be there Friday night for sure. Saturday maybe won't be there because I am standing up in a wedding now, and the announcement is taking place this very Saturday night, Doc.
Very nice. All right. We want to give a shout out to the Michigan baseball team qualifying for the first time, I think, since the 80s. They qualified for the NCAA World Series. Good for them. It's awesome. They got a chance. They beat UCLA. First time all year that UCLA lost a weekend series. And, hey, do your thing. And I know that we're not big on college baseball here, but, hey, if Michigan's in it, might as well win it, right? Go Blue.
By the way, did you know? You probably didn't notice it because Detroit Podcast, at Detroit Podcast on Twitter, wasn't tagged in it. But Brad Galley tagged me in a tweet with the video of his little segment about the Michigan baseball team winning against UCLA.
Why did you do that?
The #1 nationally ranked team in the UCLA Bruins. I guess he wanted more attention on Twitter and maybe us to like and retweet his video, which I think I gave him a like or a retweet or both. I forget now, but he did tag me.
Oh.
He did tag me on Twitter at Vito Jerome. Did not tag the Detroit Sports Podcast, Doc. And how does that make you feel?
Sad.
Chat this week's episode. Sorry, Doc.
See everybody next time.
Let's be happy now. All right? Adios.